Today, I choose to live in peace. So Charlie Brown wanted to live in peace. But Lucy had a score to settle with Charlie Brown. So in this particular cartoon, Lucy is chasing Charlie Brown around and she's shouting, "I'll get you, Charlie Brown. I'll get you. I'll knock your block off, Charlie Brown." Charlie Brown, who has been running full speed ahead, stops, turns around and says, "Wait a minute. Hold everything. We can't carry on like this. It's Christmas time. Remember peace on earth? The world is filled with problems, people hurting people, people not understanding people. Now, if we as children can't solve what are relatively minor problems, how can we ever expect to?" At this point, Lucy interrupts Charlie Brown, hits him with a left to the jaw, knocking him out. Lucy says, "I had to hit him quick. He was beginning to make sense." Peace does make good sense. Peace is an idea that makes a lot of sense. And peace is more than just a good idea. Peace is a divine idea. The quality of peace, the experience of peace is not the absence of anything, it's the presence of. It is an attribute of God, of Spirit. Peace is always there. And yet, we must make room for this idea. Just as the cartoon displays, we can knock peace out before it begins to make sense. In our exploration of the Christmas series, we're using the Advent ring, and last week we talked about hope or faith. This week we talk about peace. And when we in Unity are exploring and discovering the Christmas story again, anew, we do so from a metaphysical standpoint. And so the co-founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore, in talking about Christmas and what is this Christ, Charles Fillmore said, "Each of us has within him or her the Christ, just as Jesus did. And we must look within to recognize and actualize our sonship, meaning our divine origin, our divine birth, even as Jesus did." The Christmas story is a symbolic masterpiece that portrays our invitation to give willful, conscious birth through personal experience to all that we already are. We are the Christ. It is our true identity. The term Christ is simply a term that we use. You could use the Atman. There's lots of other words that you may be able to use to explain our innate divinity, the Christ presence. And we see Jesus as one who actualized this and lived this and taught this and embodied it, and therefore became an ultimate example that we could point to as one who has accomplished this. And it requires nurturing this divine idea and taking action. Now that's what Joseph represents. The word Joseph actually means God adds or God increases. It's to add or to increase. And it's talking about that from a point of our taking action. All of creation exists within the whole in a state of balance. You have yin and yang. You have positive and negative, life and death. You have Mary and Joseph. You have the receptive and the active. When we explore Joseph in the Christmas story, we are exploring the active principle of creation. And so today we're going to use the life, the story of Joseph, to distill some practical teachings that we can implement in our life to help us not throw away this idea of who we are, but how do we nurture it? How do we take the idea and put it into action? And so today we look at the Christmas story that's found in the Gospel of Matthew. Now, how many of you know that there are two different Christmas stories in the Bible? Yeah, there's one in Matthew and one in Luke. There's actually one in John as well that says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Well, we don't really talk about that one a whole lot because it doesn't have angels and wise men and mangers and all that sort of stuff. But there are two different ones, and a lot of individuals don't realize that. And so last week we looked at the one in Luke. Now, Luke's particular version of the Christmas story was written to an audience that was a Gentile audience, non-Jewish. They were the more common people. And so that story was also directed to Mary. The angel visited Mary, if you remember. That particular story has shepherds and a lowly birth. Today, we look at the story through Matthew. Matthew's story is different. There are no shepherds. There are magi. There are wise men. There's star. There's an angry King Herod. This is written to a Jewish audience seeking to make a slightly different point. And this particular story is directed to Joseph. So here we pick up in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 1, verse 18. Now the birth of Jesus took place in this way. When his mother Mary had been engaged to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. Her husband Joseph, being a righteous man and unwilling to expose her to public disgrace, planned to dismiss her quietly. But just when he had resolved to do this, an angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus. In this particular story, Joseph does not say anything. And so one of the things that we draw from this are his actions. Actions speak louder than words. So we have an individual who was engaged to be married to a woman. In that particular culture, when a man was to be engaged to a woman, it meant that he had bought her and paid for her. That he had given whatever was required of her father to be able to take this woman as his wife. And they were just waiting for the day to come. Now, in their particular culture, in their Bible, in the book of Deuteronomy, it says if the woman is a virgin and she's engaged to a man and she sleeps with another man, she is to be stoned. So when Joseph found out that his fiancée was pregnant, she was supposed to be stoned. And so now we're beginning to see how if he had not made the choices that he made, Mary's life probably would have been taken from her. There would have been no baby born. So how he responded to this was critical. Now, though Joseph didn't say anything, what we know is he found out that she was expecting a baby. And being a righteous man and unwilling to expose her to public disgrace, he decided to dismiss her quietly. Joseph probably said, after thinking about this, if I claim that this child is mine, it's a false claim. I'm lying. Have you ever been faced with a decision that you knew that you couldn't lie, that you could not claim something that was not true? Well, Joseph was in that place. So he felt like if I claim the child is mine, I'm lying. I can't do that. But if I claim the child is not mine, they will kill her. Have you ever been between a rock and a hard place? Well, he was. What Joseph did, after much thought, and he had to have taken this into his heart, he decided, I will make no accusation. Now that's brilliant. I'm not going to claim it's mine. I'm not going to claim it's not mine. I will make no accusation. And without an accusation, there can be no trial. He made no accusation. He made no excuse. So what he decided to do was the highest, the best, the most loving thing that he could conceive, and that was, I will send her away quietly. I'll send her away to a place where widows live together, and she will not be stoned. She can be taken care of there. After he made that decision, which was again the best decision that his rational mind could possibly make, the story says he went to sleep. But when he had resolved to do this, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the son that is conceived is of the Holy Spirit.